There are questions that keep historians awake at night. Not small questions. Not questions about dates or names or the details of battles fought long ago. Big questions, fundamental questions, questions that strike at the heart of everything we think we know about the ancient world and the civilizations that came before us. Tonight, we are going to ask four of them. Four mysteries, four civilizations, four questions that history cannot answer. A city swallowed by the ocean. A golden chest so powerful it could destroy armies. A monument so ancient it may rewrite the entire timeline of human civilization. And a catastrophe so total, so swift, so complete that it erased the entire Bronze Age in a single generation. These are not fringe theories or conspiracy stories. These are genuine, unsolved mysteries that the world's greatest archaeologists, historians, and scientists have spent their careers trying to crack. And none of them have succeeded. But first, you will have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. We begin where all great mysteries begin. At the edge of the known world, with a story so extraordinary that for 2,000 years, humanity has argued about whether it is history or legend. We begin with Atlantis, 9,000 years before the birth of Christ, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. There existed an island, not a small island, a continent, a civilization so vast, so powerful, so technologically advanced that it dominated the ancient world for millennia. Its name was Atlantis. And in a single day and a single night of catastrophic violence, it was gone, swallowed by the ocean, erased from the face of the earth so completely that for thousands of years, no one even knew it had existed. This is the account given to us by Plato, the Greek philosopher, in 360 BCE. In two dialogues called Timaeus and Critias, Plato describes in extraordinary detail a civilization that was the greatest the world had ever seen, a circular city of concentric rings of land and water, massive temples clad in precious metals, a navy of 1,200 ships, an army of 10,000 chariots, a civilization that had conquered most of the Mediterranean world until Athens stopped them, and then the gods destroyed them. For 2,000 years, the question has never changed. Was Plato describing a real place? Or was Atlantis the greatest work of fiction in human history? Here is what makes the mystery so enduring. Plato was not a storyteller. He was a philosopher, one of the greatest thinkers in human history. And he insisted, repeatedly, emphatically, that Atlantis was not a myth. He said explicitly that the story was true, that it had been passed down through Egyptian priests to the Athenian statesman Solon, and from Solon through generations to Plato himself. Why would one of history's greatest rational minds fabricate an elaborate fictional continent? The skeptics have an answer: allegory. Plato invented Atlantis to make a philosophical point about the hubris of powerful civilizations. Athens represented virtue, Atlantis represented corruption and imperial overreach. The story was a moral lesson, not a historical account. It is a reasonable argument. But then you look at the details. Plato describes Atlantis with the precision of a man reporting facts, not inventing fiction. The dimensions of the city, the specific metals used in construction, including one called orichalcum that appears in no other ancient text. The layout of the harbor, the location of the temples, the color of the stone used in the walls, black, white, and red. These are not the details of allegory. These are the details of memory. And then there is the location. Plato places Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules in the Atlantic Ocean. And for centuries, explorers and researchers have scoured the Atlantic looking for underwater ruins that might match his description. They have found things. In 1968, off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas, divers discovered what appeared to be a massive stone road on the ocean floor. Perfectly aligned rectangular stones stretching for hundreds of meters beneath the sea. Some researchers immediately declared it the Bimini Road, a remnant of Atlantis. Geologists say it is natural rock formation. The debate has never been resolved. In the Azores, a chain of islands rising from the mid-Atlantic ridge, researchers have found geological evidence of landmasses that sank beneath the ocean thousands of years ago. The mid-Atlantic ridge itself is one of the most geologically volatile regions on Earth, capable of producing exactly the kind of catastrophic volcanic destruction Plato describes. Other researchers look not to the Atlantic, but to the Mediterranean. Santorini, the Greek island whose catastrophic volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE destroyed the Minoan civilization and may have inspired the story of Atlantis. The similarities between Minoan Crete and Plato's Atlantis are striking. A powerful maritime civilization, circular architecture, bull worship, sudden catastrophic destruction. Some point to the coast of Spain, where aerial and satellite photography has revealed what appears to be a massive buried city in the marshlands of Andalusia. Circular rings, rectangular structures, a pattern that eerily matches Plato's description. In 2011, a team led by Professor Richard Freund from the University of Hartford used deep ground radar, digital mapping, and satellite imagery to investigate this Spanish site. What they found beneath the mud was extraordinary. Concentric rings of structures buried under centuries of sediment, exactly where Plato said Atlantis would be. Destroyed not by volcanic eruption, but by a massive tsunami. The mainstream archaeological community remains unconvinced. But here is the deepest mystery of Atlantis, the one that never gets discussed. Across cultures that had no contact with each other, across every ocean and every continent, there are flood myths, stories of a great civilization destroyed by water. The Sumerians had one, the Hindus had one, the Native Americans had dozens, the ancient Chinese had one. Every culture on Earth remembers a flood. What if they are all remembering the same event? What if Atlantis was not one civilization, but the memory of a world that existed before the end of the last ice age? When sea levels 120 meters lower than today, when vast coastal plains were exposed, when human civilization may have flourished in places now buried beneath the ocean. We have explored less than 20% of the ocean floor. Whatever is down there, we have not found it yet. The ocean keeps its secrets, and Atlantis keeps the greatest secret of all. But while Atlantis lies hidden beneath the waves, another mystery stands in the desert. Not lost, not submerged, hidden in plain sight. An object so powerful that the Bible says it killed 50,000 people who simply looked at it. An object that armies carried into battle and never lost. An object that vanished from history over 2,500 years ago and has not been seen since. In the book of Exodus, God gives Moses precise instructions. Build me a chest, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, 1.5 cubits tall. Cover it inside and out with pure gold. Place 2 golden cherubim on the lid with their wings spread upward. And between those wings, that is where I will meet with you. That is where my presence will dwell. The object that Moses built from these instructions is called the Ark of the Covenant. And it was not merely a religious symbol, it was a weapon. The Bible describes the Ark doing things that defy every law of physics. The Jordan River stops flowing when the priests carrying the Ark step into it. The walls of Jericho collapse when the Ark is carried around them 7 times. When the Philistines capture the Ark in battle, they wake up the next morning to find their God's statue smashed to pieces on the floor. A plague breaks out among them. Tumors, rats, death. They send the Ark back to Israel as fast as they can. When the men of Beth Shemesh look inside the ark, 50,070 of them die instantly. When a man named Uzzah reaches out to steady the ark as it tips on a cart, he touches it and drops dead. This was not a decorative religious object. This was something that inspired absolute terror in everyone who came near it. Modern researchers have proposed extraordinary theories about what the ark actually was. Some engineers have noted that the ark's construction, gold inside and out, with specific wood in between, matches the description of an electrical capacitor. If the dry desert air created static electricity, the ark could have built up a massive electrostatic charge capable of delivering lethal shocks to anyone who touched it unexpectedly. Others have noted that the ark was said to contain the original stone tablets written by God's own hand. If those tablets were made of certain radioactive minerals, the radiation could explain both the ark's apparent power and the deaths of those who came too close. We cannot test these theories, because the ark has been missing for over 2,500 years. The last confirmed mention of the ark in the Bible is in 2 Chronicles during the reign of King Josiah, around 620 BCE. Shortly after this, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem and looted Solomon's temple. The ark is never mentioned again. Where did it go? The most extraordinary theory, and the one with the most physical evidence behind it, points to Ethiopia. In the ancient Ethiopian city of Aksum, inside a small treasury chapel beside the church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, a single monk stands guard. He has stood there his entire life. He will stand there until he dies. He is replaced by another monk who will do the same. He guards what the Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims is the original Ark of the Covenant. No one is allowed to see it. No archaeologist, no priest, no king, no president. The guardian monk alone may enter the treasury. The Ethiopian claim traces the Ark's arrival to the time of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. According to Ethiopian tradition, recorded in a 14th century text called the Kebra Nagast, the Glory of Kings, the Queen of Sheba visited Solomon in Jerusalem, and they had a son together. That son, Menelik, later visited his father and returned to Ethiopia, bringing the ark with him. Is this history or legend? Remarkably, there is evidence. On the ancient Nile island of Elephantine, archaeologists discovered papyrus documents proving that a Jewish temple existed there in the 5th century BCE. A Jewish temple in Egypt at the exact time when Jewish law said there could only be one place where the ark could be housed. Why would Jews build a second temple unless the ark was no longer in Jerusalem? And that island is on the ancient route to Ethiopia. Other theories place the ark beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem itself, hidden in tunnels and chambers carved beneath the city before the Babylonian invasion. In 1981, archaeologist Dan Bahat reportedly discovered a sealed chamber beneath the Temple Mount that has never been fully excavated. The Islamic Waqf Authority controls the site and has refused permission for further investigation. Whatever is beneath the Temple Mount, we are not allowed to look. The Irish legend of the Tuatha De Danann describes sacred objects of immense power brought to Ireland from the Middle East in ancient times. Some researchers have connected this to the Ark's possible journey westward through Egypt and across the Mediterranean. Every theory is plausible, none is proven. What we know for certain is this: the Ark of the Covenant existed. It is described in extraordinary detail across multiple ancient sources. It was real enough to be the most sacred and feared object in the ancient world. And one day, without a single explanation in any historical record, it simply vanished. In Aksum, Ethiopia, the guardian monk grows old. He has never spoken about what he guards. He never will. The Ark vanished from history in the 6th century BCE, But there is something in the Egyptian desert that has been there for far longer. Something that may be older than we have ever dared to imagine. Something that has been staring at us across the millennia with a face that holds a secret. A secret about who built it, and when, and why everything we know about ancient Egypt might be wrong. Stand before the great Sphinx of Giza, and something happens that is difficult to explain. You feel watched. The oldest monumental sculpture on Earth, 73 meters long, 20 meters tall, carved from a single ridge of limestone bedrock, stares at you across millennia with a calm so absolute it borders on the unnerving. The official story is well established. The Sphinx was built by the pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE as part of the Giza pyramid complex. It faces east to greet the rising sun. Its lion body and human face represent the power of the pharaoh combined with the strength of the lion. It has stood there for 4,500 years. It is a clean, satisfying story. There is just one problem. It might be completely wrong. In 1990, a maverick Egyptologist named John Anthony West noticed something extraordinary about the Sphinx that no one had properly investigated. The erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body and enclosure walls were not consistent with wind and sand erosion. The kind of erosion you would expect from 4,500 years of desert exposure. They were consistent with water erosion. Deep, vertical, rounded channels carved into the limestone by rainfall. Heavy, prolonged rainfall running down the surface of the stone over centuries. West brought this observation to Boston University geologist Robert Schoch. Schoch examined the Sphinx enclosure walls and confirmed what West had seen. The erosion patterns were undeniably caused by precipitation, not wind and sand. And here is where the mystery becomes world-shattering. The last time Egypt received the kind of heavy sustained rainfall that could produce that erosion was between 7,000 and 5,000 BCE. At the very latest. That means the Sphinx, or at minimum the enclosure in which it sits, is not 4,500 years old. It is at least 7,000 years old, possibly 10,000 years old, or older. Think about what that means. If the Sphinx was built in 7,000 BCE, it predates the invention of writing, it predates Sumeria, it predates ancient Egypt itself by thousands of years. It would mean that a civilization capable of quarrying and shaping an enormous limestone monument existed on Earth at a time when mainstream archaeology says humanity was still living in small hunter-gatherer communities. The Egyptological establishment reacted with fury. Schoch's paper was presented at the Geological Society of America in 1992. The geologists in the audience, who had no political stake in ancient Egyptian chronology, found his argument compelling. The Egyptologists, whose entire careers were built on the established timeline, found it devastating. The debate has raged for 30 years. But the water erosion is not the only anomaly. In 1996, geophysicist Thomas Dobecki used seismic equipment to probe the bedrock around the Sphinx. What he found stunned him. Beneath the Sphinx's front paws, there are chambers. Rectangular chambers, man-made, at a depth of around 5 to 8 meters below the surface. The Egyptian authorities have never permitted a full excavation of these chambers. Every request has been denied. What is in those chambers? Ancient Egyptian texts, specifically the writings of the Greek historian Herodotus and later the Roman writer Pliny, describe hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx containing the records of a civilization that existed before the flood. Before the memory of Egypt itself. The ancient Egyptians called this time Zep Tepi, the first time, a golden age when gods walked among men and built structures of impossible sophistication. Is that mythology, or is it memory? There is one more piece of evidence that mainstream archaeology finds deeply uncomfortable. The inventory stele, a stone tablet discovered at Giza in the 19th century, contains an inscription describing the pharaoh Khufu ordering repairs to the Sphinx. Khufu reigned around 2550 BCE, decades before Khafra, who is officially credited with building the Sphinx. If Khufu was repairing the Sphinx, someone else built it first. Egyptologists dismiss the inventory stele as a later forgery. But the arguments for dismissing it are not entirely convincing. And then there is the astronomical argument. The Sphinx faces due east, toward the rising sun. Researchers Robert Bovell and Graham Hancock have argued that the Sphinx faces the constellation Leo on the horizon at the spring equinox, and that the last time Leo rose on the spring equinox horizon, exactly where the Sphinx is looking, was around 10,500 BCE. The age of Leo, the age of the lion, a lion-bodied monument, facing the constellation of the Lion, at the exact moment in the astronomical cycle when that constellation rose on the eastern horizon. Coincidence? Perhaps. But the Sphinx has been watching the horizon for a very long time, and whatever it is waiting for, it has not arrived yet. The Sphinx may guard the memory of a world older than history, but there is a world that we know existed, a sophisticated, interconnected, remarkably advanced Bronze Age world that was destroyed not by the slow passage of time, but by a catastrophe so sudden, so total, and so mysterious that it remains one of the most chilling events in all of human history. A warning from the past that we have still not fully understood. Imagine the most advanced, interconnected, sophisticated world that has ever existed. Now imagine it ending, completely, in a single generation. That is what happened in 1200 BCE. The Bronze Age world at its height was extraordinary. Egypt under Ramesses the Great was the wealthiest and most powerful empire on earth. The Hittite Empire controlled Anatolia and Syria, a military superpower that had fought Egypt to a standstill at the Battle of Kadesh and negotiated the world's first recorded peace treaty. Mycenaean Greece was a civilization of palaces and art and long-distance trade. Ugarit on the Syrian coast was the great trading hub of the Mediterranean, a cosmopolitan city where merchants from Egypt, Greece, Cyprus, Canaan, and Mesopotamia all rubbed shoulders in the marketplace. These civilizations had coexisted and traded with each other for centuries. They shared technologies, they shared art, they shared writing systems, they sent diplomatic letters to each other on clay tablets that archaeologists have found perfectly preserved. It was a world of extraordinary complexity and sophistication. And then, in the space of roughly 50 years, between approximately 1200 and 1150 BCE, almost all of it was gone. Mycenae, destroyed and never rebuilt. The palace at Tiryns, burned. The palace at Pylos, burned so completely that the clay tablets inside were baked hard by the fire, which is the only reason we can read them today. Ugarit, destroyed so utterly that it was never inhabited again. The Hittite Empire collapsed overnight, its capital Hattusa, abandoned and burned. In Egypt, the records of Ramesses III at the temple of Medinet Habu describe what happened in chilling detail. They came from the sea, a confederation of peoples described in Egyptian hieroglyphs as the Sea Peoples swept across the Mediterranean in a wave of destruction that nothing could stop. They destroyed Cyprus. They destroyed the Hittites. They burned Ugarit. They marched on Egypt itself. Ramesses III stopped them, barely. His records describe two massive battles, one on land and one at sea, in which Egypt repelled the invasion. The carvings at Medinet Habu show the Sea Peoples in extraordinary detail. their distinctive feathered headdresses, their ships, their weapons, their women and children traveling with them in ox carts as if they were not raiders but refugees. Refugees fleeing something. But who were they? The Egyptian records give us names. The Peliset, the Cheka, the Shekelesh, the Denian, the Weshesh. Names that have tantalized scholars for over a century because they seem to match, almost, names we know from other sources. The Peliset are almost certainly the Philistines, who appear in the Bible as one of Israel's great enemies and who settled on the coast of Canaan after the collapse. The Denian may be the Danaans, Homer's name for the Greeks. The Shekelesh may be the Sicilians. The Cheka, possibly the Trojans. If these identifications are correct, the Sea Peoples were not barbaric invaders from nowhere. They were the survivors of the Bronze Age civilizations that had already been destroyed. The Greeks, the Trojans, the peoples of the Aegean, all swept up in a collapse that had begun somewhere else and was moving westward, like a wave. But what started the collapse? This is where the mystery deepens into something almost unbearable in its complexity. Because modern scholarship increasingly believes the Sea Peoples were not the cause of the Bronze Age collapse. They were a symptom. The evidence points to a perfect storm of catastrophes hitting simultaneously around 1200 BCE. Drought, a massive, multi-decade drought across the entire eastern Mediterranean that destroyed harvests and created famine. Earthquakes, a seismic period that devastated multiple cities simultaneously. Internal rebellions as starving populations turned on their rulers. And disruption of the trade networks that the entire Bronze Age economy depended on. Each disaster made the others worse. Drought created famine. Famine created desperation. Desperation created violence. Violence disrupted trade. Disrupted trade meant cities could not get the tin they needed to make bronze, the material that the entire civilization was built on. The entire system collapsed at once, and the Sea Peoples, desperate, displaced, starving populations swept up in the chaos, moved across the Mediterranean, looking for somewhere to survive. They were not destroyers. They were refugees from a world that was already ending. What emerged from the ruins of the Bronze Age was a simpler, poorer, less connected world. The writing systems of Mycenae and Ugarit, gone. The palace economies, gone. The long-distance trade networks, gone. Greece entered what historians call the Greek Dark Ages, centuries of poverty and isolation from which it would not fully emerge until the classical period. The Bronze Age collapse set human civilization back by centuries. And here is the thought that keeps historians awake at night. Our world today is more interconnected, more interdependent, more complexly networked than the Bronze Age world ever was. Our supply chains span the globe. Our economies are intertwined. Our food systems depend on international trade. Our technology requires materials from dozens of countries working in precise coordination. The Bronze Age world collapsed because it was too complex and too interdependent to survive simultaneous shocks. The Sea Peoples did not destroy the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age destroyed itself, and we have built something far more fragile in its place. 4 mysteries, 4 civilizations, 4 questions that history cannot answer. We have traveled tonight from the sunken ruins of Atlantis to the silent guardian monk of Axum, from the ancient water-carved stones of the Sphinx's enclosure to the burned palaces of the Bronze Age world. And standing at the end of this journey, something becomes clear. These 4 mysteries are not separate stories. They are one story. They are all stories about the fragility of civilization, about how quickly everything a society builds, its cities, its knowledge, its technology, its trade, its memory, can be lost. Completely, irreversibly, in a single generation. Atlantis, if it was real, was the most powerful civilization the ancient world had ever produced. And it was gone in a single night. The Ark of the Covenant was the most sacred and carefully guarded object in the ancient world, and it vanished without a trace. The Sphinx was built by a civilization so advanced that we still cannot explain it, and that civilization was so completely erased that we do not even know its name. The Bronze Age world was the most sophisticated and interconnected civilization humanity had yet produced, and it collapsed in 50 years. Every single one of these civilizations believed it was permanent. None of them were. We stand tonight in the ruins of worlds that once seemed as solid and eternal as our own, and we are left with a question that no archaeologist, no historian, no scientist has yet been able to answer. What did they know that we have forgotten? Because here is the thing about mysteries. They are not just gaps in our knowledge. They are invitations. Invitations to look deeper, to question what we think we know, to consider the possibility that the human story is far older, far stranger, and far more extraordinary than our history books have yet told us. The ocean floor has not been fully mapped. The chambers beneath the Sphinx have not been opened. The treasury at Axum has not been examined. The burned archives of the Bronze Age cities have not been fully translated. The answers are out there. We simply have not found them yet. Thank you for watching. If one of these 4 mysteries stayed with you, if one question refused to leave your mind as the video ends, leave it in the comments below, because the best mysteries are the ones we solve together. History is not over. It is waiting to be discovered.